Hi students, I am going to give you a quick little mini lesson about how to write the main event of your story. At this point, you should have your introduction written. You've created some suspense by writing your rising action, and now you're ready to get into the part of your story where the climax happens. So I'm going to tell you a few things that will help you with your main event. First of all, here are a couple of examples of common um, climaxes of stories that we've seen. Jane got chased by the ferocious wolf, but she got away. Or Jane ran and then she got away, and then she went to her house. After that, she had another adventure in the woods with a bear, and then she had to get away from the bear. So what do you think about those? Yeah, they're probably not the best. The first one is too short. I mean, you've built your reader up. They are ready for some kind of great experience, and then you give them one sentence. And then the second one is just kind of a list of things that happened. There's no feeling in there. There's no excitement. It's just Jane did this, and then she did this, and then she did this, and then she did this. That's not a really exciting climax. You want the climax to be the best part of your story. So remember, the main event is the most important part of your story. It leads to the climax, the most intense part of your story. It should take up the largest amount of writing in your story. And it should occur as though you are in slow motion. Make sure you describe every single detail. This is also the time for you to show off, to really entertain your reader, because this is what they've been reading for. This is what they've been waiting for. You want to explode that moment and make it as exciting as possible. So some ways that you can do that is by asking, what did your characters do? But then also think about, what did your characters see, hear, feel, smell? Think about using that descriptive language that we've been talking about, using your senses to describe everything that your characters are experiencing. Think about what your characters are thinking or feeling or wondering or worrying. Put yourself in their shoes and then show how they are feeling throughout this experience. And then also you could say, things that your characters would say. Imagine that your character is in that particular experience. What would they actually say? If there's more than one character, what kind of conversation would they be having back and forth? If it's a character alone, what might they be saying to themselves? So those are some possible questions that you can use to help generate some details about your main event. Here's an example. We read earlier the example about Jane being chased by the wolf and how the two examples weren't really all that great. Here's one that is. Jane could hear the beast gaining on her. Its paws padded across the forest like a drum roll, and she could hear its rhythmic panting. Despite the throbbing pain in her tired muscles, she pushed herself on, her heart pounding in her chest, her blood pumping in her temples. How could she ever get away, she wondered. It was nearly hopeless, but something deep inside her pushed her on. She chanced a single glance over her shoulder, but all she could see were his white, glinting teeth and lolling tongue. Help, she whispered in desperation, although she knew that her survival depended on no one but herself. As she ran, it occurred to her that she could never beat this beast by strength or power. It had to be by brains. That's when the idea came to her. Of course, she thought, the ravine. She used her last ounce of strength to dash ahead toward the cliff. At the last possible moment, she stopped and faced the beast. As he stretched out his muscular legs in a lunge, Jane stepped to the side. She closed her eyes and heard its pitiful cries echo as it tumbled down the rocky cliff and out of sight. So that is a much more exciting main event of a story. You can see lots of different techniques used in there. She's describing how the beast is sounding as it's running after her. She's describing how she's feeling and her muscles are tired and she's got throbbing pains. You can tell she's wondering and she's thinking, how's she going to get out of this? She even whispers to herself, help, even though she knows she's alone and she has to do that. So use those techniques to add more to your main event and make sure you explode that moment. Remember, these are your detail generating questions that might be able to help. This came from the Empowering Writers Narrative Writing Guide. I just wanted everybody to know I did not just make all that up on my own. I used the Empowering Writers Guide because it does a great job of providing specific strategies for students to help them with their writing. Now, go write.